Hello, good evening, people. Um, so we're on episode 9 now. Welcome to the Parable of the Disc, by the way. So, last episode we went over the problem of evil and talked a little bit about the Garden of Eden, God's ultimate plan for defeat of evil in Revelation, probably the new heavens and the new earth being created. A lot of stuff there, and I wanted to continue that, but I'm not really ready to talk about that tonight. Um, so basically, I'm kind of making things a little bit simpler on me tonight, as opposed to prepping this big long thing, which I was not prepared to do. There's a lot going on. Busy with holidays, busy with work, busy with all sorts of stuff coming up for Christmas time, right? And I just haven't had time to sit down and prep anything. So tonight we're just gonna dye some discs. I got some discs that I've been wanting to dye anyway. Um, one second. Uh, I dyed this one. I don't know, a few weeks back, right? And this is one of my favorite stamps. And I've dyed a few of these before, and I started collecting some of these stamps. I've only got like 3 left now, but I think I had like 5 or 6 at one time. But this is Zachariah Johnson tour series from a few years back, and I really like it. It's Firebird, Glow Firebird, and what I really like about it is that image, the stamp, when you spin it, it's a phenakistoscope, so that makes the animation. It makes it appear like the bird is flying. So I really like the stamp. It's one of the coolest ones out there. And what I did with this is and what I've done with all the ones I've dyed is just kind of do a nice little glue mask spin dye on it, do a cool little effect. The other ones I did, I also like lotion painted the stamp, the words and the birds. I don't know if I want to mess with all that. It is a glow disc, and the stamp just kind of stands out on its own. I just don't really think it needs that. Um, but I got 2 more here. So tonight we're going to do some spin dyes on these, and I'm going to kind of go through some of the basics of glue mask spin dyeing, because I did some other spin dyeing tutorials, but I haven't done a glue masking one. Um, there's plenty of other tutorials out there too, but hey. Um, the other thing, time permitting, I'm going to do is I'm not going to dye this one tonight, but I'm going to prep this to get it ready to dye. This is just a used Bravo Dos X that I got off somebody online recently, and I just want to dye it up. So what we're going to do for prepping it is we're going to mask it with vinyl and glue mask. I'm going to mask the rim to save for a spin dye later, and then I'm going to glue mask parts of the stamp that I want to remain white. So we're going to kind of walk through some of the cool ways that you can use glue as opposed to just making glue beds, right? And again, I'm not really have a lesson or anything, but if I just kind of talk. If you're out there and you're watching, chat with me. That's kind of what I'm looking for. If you got questions about disc dyeing, you got questions about any of the stuff I've talked about on some of the other episodes, or in general, I do thoroughly study the Bible, and I like to answer people's questions. So if you got something, hit me up. Um, for now, let me go ahead and I'm gonna shrink myself down, and we're gonna look at. I got a camera set up over the turntable, so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. So 1 second here. Shrinkify my face. Whoa. Okay, I'm gonna move me over here too, so you can see the turntable fully. But wait. Okay. So starting off with spin dyeing, I'm gonna do 2 different designs that I like, 2 different glue masking styles that I like to do. I'm not gonna do one exactly like this, but similar to this. Probably see it better here. Similar to this, and I don't know what the precise names for any of this stuff's gonna be, but I like to call this like the tracer effect, right? You kind of have these lines, and you you drag through them and it makes this like tracers. This one I've got like squiggly lines, and then I did the tracers, so it made a little bit different effect. It almost kind of looks like a tire, radial tire type design or something. But I'm gonna do straight lines on the other one. And then the other one I'm gonna do, I don't even know what you would call it, but I'll show you an example. Hang on. It's gonna be something like that, where you got the little wavy lines going all around, right? Again, I don't know what the name for that is, but that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna do those two styles, but the first thing I want to do is I want to just lay down a base color. Um, so we're gonna start off with just a basic spin dye, right? Um, and then we'll layer the design on top of that, right? Okay, get my little color kit out here. It's all down here beneath me, I promise you. Get some other stuff ready too. Gonna need some paper towels. Gonna need my Q-tips. Um, you can by all means, like, some people use Q-tips. I kind of have gotten to the point where I use Q-tips for everything, but I used to use like kind of a combination of Q-tips and paint brushes. And I still, oh crap, I just spilled Q-tips everywhere. I still like uh, using paintbrushes for certain things. They're like really thin lines. I like to do really precise lines because you can't get that precise with Q-tips. But if you're gonna lay down like thick layers of color, I just feel like Q-tips work much better, and I feel like they're much better for blending colors together, doing fades and stuff like that. I really made a mess. I put Q-tips all over the floor. Which is kind of lead me to talk about something else. Part of the reason why I'm doing this tonight and not doing a lesson, and kind of I don't know if how anybody would take this, but I'm getting to the point where I think I'm going to take a break from doing this podcast. It may be permanent, I don't know. Um, what I mean by that is I'm not going to do this every once a week or anything like that. It starts to get really stressful. Don't have a lot of free time to prepare for it. I don't even know. When I started doing this, I had the intention of putting something out there that gave answers to some of the questions that my friends, when I would talk to them about Jesus, because generally speaking, I'm still kind of new to the Christian life, and when I would tell them that I've been saved and everything, I get a lot of pushback and questions that they think I can't answer, but I do have answers. I did come to this through logical reasonings, through examining evidence, things like that. So I wanted to put all that stuff out there. And that's where most of these videos have been inspired by, to put something out there so that my friends and family could have this and understand my journey to how I got here, and maybe it would help lead them to Jesus as well. I still want that, but I also think it's very important, and this is kind of a message for everybody out there that has this idea of creating content and stuff. Don't do anything that you're not called to do. And I feel like sometimes when I have little accidents like that, today's been real stressful as far as getting this ready. Am I doing something that I'm not called to do? Um, I do feel like God gave me very clear instruction when he kind of over the years as I've been learning and growing spiritually. The main thing He's called me to do is to learn, just to learn as much as I can, to study the Word, learn it well, and I've been doing that, but I've been pretty impatient on like trying to move forward in my service and calling. And I think that's I'm kind of going through a self-evaluation and starting to listen to God better and say, do I really need to be doing this right now? What that means is I don't necessarily say I'm going to stop doing the podcast, but I'm going to stop trying to push biblical teaching as much. I'm gonna love Jesus, and I'm always gonna be strong in my Christian beliefs as far as what I'm doing with this channel. but I'm gonna refocus it and try to get back to the disc golf theme, disc dyeing theme, because disc dyeing is what this whole, you know, social media thing that I've started was founded on. Back when it was Ninja Disc Golf, that's how it started. That's how it grew. That's what people know me as. I'm not a great disc golfer. I'm not a great athlete, but I am known for my artwork, and so that's what I'm going to focus on. And I'm going to try to bring on guests to talk about disc golf and stuff as well. But I'm going to get away from the biblical teaching a little bit because I just don't feel like that's where I'm supposed to be. I'm also going to get to the point where I'm not going to do a scheduled weekly live stream because it's a little too much. It's a lot for me to have on my plate, and I got a baby due in a couple months or a few months, and that's where my priority is going to be. My priority is on my family, my faith. That's where it's at, not on content creation. But I love you guys, and I'll still be around doing stuff. It'll just be kind of mellowed out a little bit and more focused on disc golf. So more stuff I'm an expert on anyway as far as the artwork. Okay, I've rambled enough and kind of spoke my piece about that. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna go ahead and do this gold stamped one first. I need one more thing. I need my little Sharpie that I always use to line things up. Which I don't know if I told you guys this or not. I had purchased a really cool jig for spin dyeing, and I've got a basic one, but I only use it for dyeing the back rims because I find like this works just fine. But that jig would have been awesome. It was like it would self-center everything, and I could even do off-center spins by different little positions that it has pre-built. The problem is it wouldn't work because when I started using this for spin dyeing, what I did was, this is just like a little mat, and this is actually like, this is the side that you would use when you were playing records on it, right? But that spindle in the middle, I literally shaved it down to where it's barely sticking up above that thing, and that I needed it to stick up higher to use that jig. I don't know what other people do when they start spin dyeing if they don't have a jig like that. I didn't really see any other way to do it other than to cut that off. Now, I didn't have to shave it completely to the height of that mat. I could have had it slip up a little bit because you have a little bit of room, you know, under the disc, but not much. And the main reason I slid it down completely is because I was thinking backside dies, right? And again, I have like a little jig that mounts on there that's pretty basic, that I do just for that, because if they're domey, it's really hard to center them that way. Anyway, let's get this thing centered and start laying down some color on it. After we lay down some base color, I kind of walk you through what you do with the glue. And like I said, I'm going to try to do 3 things in this session, and if it runs a little long, it runs a little long. I'm just going to do what I need to do with these things. Okay, so got a gold stamp. I'm trying to think of colors I want to use for this. I've already got like a sunset type color, like fiery, like reds and oranges. So I want to do something a little different with this one. I got a gold stamp, and then I've got like a bronze stamp over here, kind of orangish. And I think I want to focus on like contrasting colors. So I think I'm going to do, on the orangish one, I'm going to do like maybe blue to purple. And on this one, I think I'm going to go like greens and yellows maybe. Yeah, I think that sounds good. Okay. Take out some of my, I'm using my acetone colors here, in case anyone is wondering. I use 2 different things when I spin dye usually. I use, they're both acetone bases, but these are ones that like I actually mix with Pro Chemical and dye, or I dye poly, but mostly Pro Chemical powder, and then acetone. This is stuff I just buy pre-mix. This is Quick Coat Worm Dip. I use that a lot too. But I really only use this for spin dyeing. I don't use it for anything else really. This stuff I use for glue beds and stuff. Can you use worm dip for glue beds? Yes. I don't like it as much. It does something a little bit weird, a little different with the reaction and how it spreads, so I don't really use it as much. That doesn't mean that you can't use it. It doesn't mean that you'll have the same effect, the same issues that I have. So, you know, play around with stuff, see what you like. That's my best advice for anybody getting into disc dyeing is don't necessarily just listen to what other people have to say. Do your own thing, experiment, because that's how you learn what you enjoy and what you're good at. Um, the style I'm most famous for, nobody else was doing it. I still don't think hardly anybody else does it. But when I started doing it, I got really good at it and I got really good results. But I would have never figured it out if I didn't just say, well, no one's doing this, but I bet you I can. So I did, and I like it. And that's my Floetrol Blossom, which I might do that on that Dos Equis. We'll see. Alright, this is Dark Dungeon. I'm going to start with this. Oh, I'm doing green to blue, not green to yellow. Just in case you're wondering, I kind of changed there. We want to get as close as possible to that stamp without actually touching that stamp, because this is acetone and it will kind of eat away at that stamp. Do you have to use acetone? That might be a question. No. You can mix it with, a lot of people use denatured alcohol, and that works just as well. The only real difference with that is you're going to need more coverage. Um, I almost want to like kind of use some to show you, but at the same time I don't, because I don't enjoy using it as much. The reason for that is, like I say, you need more coverage, and what I mean by that is the acetone dries quicker, right? And while it's like liquidy, um, the dye is not really fully contacting everything yet. So you need that acetone or whatever medium it is to dry out so that the dye begins to soak into the plastic. So what I mean is, since acid or the denatured alcohol, which is basically just like isopropyl rubbing alcohol, while it's drying, that dye is still kind of there and it could move around a lot. That's the main reason I don't like it, because while it's spinning and stuff, sometimes that stuff moves and I don't like it. I get uneven lines, I get smudges and smears and stuff. That's why I don't like using it as much. The main thing I use denatured alcohol mixes for is because it won't damage the stamp. It might if you use enough of it, but I've never really had any issues. And sometimes I can hand paint over a stamp as opposed to using lotion. You can also use lotion. It just takes longer, right? So if you're interested, that's another little thing that you can do, right? Alright, I started with Dark Dungeon, which is essentially like a really dark blue, almost purple. And now I'm moving to Royal Blue. I'm just going to kind of get right up next to it and try to blend the colors together a little bit. Sometimes that's a little hard to do. You just have to kind of keep going over where you got that other color and just try to work them together. If you don't know what I mean by that, I'm trying to blend it together where there's not a hard line between the two colors. I want a kind of a seamless, like fading from one color to the next. And that's what we're talking about when we say fades, right? Trying to fade it one color to the next. And even from the amount of how dark a color is to just a little bit lighter version of it next to that, and fade it so it blends into the next color. Alright. just is kind of a turquoise color, and this is going to help kind of transition us from blue to green. And I mean, whatever effect you're going for, just kind of keep in mind that there's not really any rules to how you do this. My first band of color, that dark dungeon, is real thin. My next band of royal blue gets a little thicker. And I'm gonna go just a little bit thicker on this aqua, and each band's just getting a little bit thicker as I go, basically. Why am I doing that? I don't know. I'm not gonna give you necessarily a hard reason for why I'm doing that. That's just kind of what I'm feeling as I'm doing it. Kind of cover all the real estate that you got there, you know. So, all right. Now I'm gonna go to a green, and the green I am using is called Shamrock. Again, everything I've done so far, these are Pro Chemical and dye colors that I'm using. If you're wondering about how to mix this stuff, I use like the exact mixtures that are like recommended on the prochemicalanddye.com website. And if you go on there, you can find like a PDF that you can download yourself. And that's what I did, and it'll have it'll basically walk you through how to mix everything. And I've one of my tutorials when I do the Floetrol blossoms, I talk about how on that mixture thing, it tells you when you mix Floetrol to add silicone oil. Silicone oil is you only want to add it if you're trying to create cells, which generally speaking, that's what most people are doing with Floetrol. So if that's what you're doing, then sure, add that. The problem is that if you're trying to do the blossom thing that I do, you don't want to add silicone. Um, and if you're trying to do chameleon cells, which is basically you control where the cells form, you add the silicone afterwards. So if you do use that, if you go download that PDF, just keep that in mind that you may not always want to add silicone oil to your mixtures when you're dealing with Floetrol. Make sense? Cool. Hope it does. Okay, and now I'm switching to the worm dip. This is, I think it's just called green. UV green. So sometimes they have creative names, sometimes they're simple. And as it says, this is UV reactive. It's one of the main things I like about Worm Dip. Not all their colors, but most of their colors are UV reactive, which if you don't know what that means, um, it just basically means that if you shine a black light on them, they react to that. They're really bright and reflective. You almost kind of have a almost, I don't want to say they glow because it's not like glow plastic like a glow like that, because you take the UV light away and it's no longer glowing, but that's kind of the general effect that you're getting. It's almost like it's glowing. And like I said, Worm Dip, basically all of their stuff, if you're looking for what's UV reactive, it will say UV, in this case UV green. Um, I've got UV yellow, UV pink, uh, but Pro Chemical and Dye colors, there's like a neon set. They have 6 colors that are UV reactive as well. So if you're looking for the Pro Chemical and Dye equivalent, you can find those as well. So it's not just Worm Dip that you can use to get that UV reactive effect. And when I'm doing this, you can see I'm kind of going deeper into the color there to kind of help blend this together. Um, and also at the same time trying to pull some of that darker green down into this lighter green. But I have to be careful because what I'm ended up doing here is I'm kind of almost eliminating that little color barrier that I had before. So I think I'm gonna get the shamrock back out. What I mean is I'm losing the fade. I'm getting that hard line that I didn't really want. If you remember me talking about that. I don't want that hard line of transition between colors. I want a soft blending between colors. That's much better. And this UV green is very similar to the UV yellow. It's only really got like a slight greenish tint to it. So like I said, a lot of it what I'm doing with it is kind of using it to blend into that other green. As it gets closer to the edge, it's going to be more yellow, which is fine. And that will be, like I said, very UV reactive. Of course, this is glow plastic, so don't really matter if it's UV reactive or not, because all the plastic is UV reactive. There is a difference though between the effect that you get off of the UV reactive dye and the actual like glow plastic. The glow plastic has to kind of charge. The other stuff, as soon as the black light hits it, it's just gonna pop. But it doesn't continue to glow after you take it away. And part of the reason I haven't really been doing this because I get that it's kind of not the most exciting thing to watch, but if you are interested in learning how to disc dye, like I said, come chat with me, answer any questions that you might have. I am paying attention to the chat. Okay, this one is done for now. What we're gonna do before we add any glue or anything, we're gonna wash it off. Before I go wash it off, because I'll have to leave the room and everything, we're gonna go ahead and do the base layer on the other disc as well. Try not to let this touch where the dye is, at least your other disc that you're working on or whatever, because until you like wash it real good, that dye is still sitting on the surface and it will transfer over. Like it was one of the things I did early on. I didn't realize that you had to clean them real thoroughly, and I would finish a dye and I just throw it in my bag with my other discs, and then my other discs would have them all over, had dye all over the bottom plates and stuff like that. So just keep that in mind. As far as how you wash them, I mean, one of the things you can use is magic eraser, but I mean, you can just use. I use just like a sponge and some dish soap. Um, the only thing I would say is like once you decide to use that sponge on a disc dye, don't use that for anything else. This stuff does have a toxicity to it. You don't want to use it for the same stuff that you wash your food and stuff with. So. Alright. So this one I was talking about going blue to purple. So I'm gonna keep the Dark Dungeon and Royal Purple out because I'm also gonna go ahead and use those. Got lilac, that's purple. We'll do our light blue here. That's bright blue. That probably is probably good. Yep. Nope, got that purple also. Okay, cool. On that one I went dark around the outside and then light on the out, or dark around the center and then move to the lighter color. I'm going to do just the opposite on this one. I'm going to start on the outside with the darker color and then work towards the inside. Why? I don't know. Seems like the thing to do. Don't always have a rhyme and reason. Sometimes I just start doing stuff and I'm like, oh yeah, I like this. Again, we got Dark Dungeon here. Dark Dungeon, I mean, it's almost black. It's not, but it's almost black. It's like a really deep navy blue, indigo type color. If you're light with it, it just kind of looks like a blue. But the more you kind of just really get the color on there, you can see how dark it is. When I first started disc dyeing, when I first got like my most little basic pack of colors, I didn't have a black. I just had Dark Dungeon, so that was the closest thing to black that I had in the beginning. Um, it wasn't very long before I realized that that wasn't really black, and that's not really what I wanted to use for black. So for me, there's only one true black, and that is it's Pro Chemical and Dye does, in my opinion, doesn't have a good black. You can mix some different things together and kind of get there, but if you just start with iDye Poly black, that's the best black on the market. That's what I use for all my real, like I actually want things to be a black line. When I do stencil dyes, I usually do a hot dip, and the hot dips I use are iDye Poly black. Now switch over to the Royal. And I think I'm actually going to do something a little bit different on this one. This one, the last one was like just a straight fade from like blue to green. I think I'm going to go blue and get progressively lighter blue, and then I'm gonna start with light purple and then get to darker purple. So, like I said, sometimes I start with one idea in my head, and as I start laying color down, I'm like, oh, this is gonna work better this way. And so I kind of always just think to myself, don't let people tell you how you want to do this. Kind of play around with it and figure out what you like to do. Because it's art. You need to have fun with it. And like I'm a person that I only took like some basic art classes in high school and in like elementary school and stuff too, but like one art class in high school, like the most remedial art class, and that's it. That's really the only art I've ever been exposed to, and I never really considered myself much of an artist. When I discovered disc dyeing, it was weird. It was like all that stuff, all that color theory stuff started coming back to me, and I just really it kind of unlocked a creative side of me that I kind of had forgotten that I had, and I certainly have enjoyed doing this. Okay, now we're going to go back to the worm dip. This is UV blue. Okay, it's UV reactive, but not as much as like the yellow or the yellow, the green, or the pink. Those are the most react. Oh, and the orange is pretty reactive too. But the blue is a little bit more subtle, but it is UV reactive. It does have a reaction to it. This blue is like really light. It often takes like a lot of coats to get it to really show up. It's another one that's really good for kind of blending your colors together too. And like I said, often like what I'm trying to do, like a lot of the color I'm actually laying down is just trying to blend the two colors together so I don't have that hard line between the two. 'Cause that's one of the main things I'm trying to avoid. That's what doing the fades is all about. Is blending the colors together. It's talking about too, like the difference between acetone and denatured alcohol is with acetone. I mean, once it's there basically. The denatured alcohol, you might like see a color there, and once you kind of rinse it off, you might get a little bit less. It might show up less than what you think it's actually there, if that makes sense or not. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but like I said, the acetone dries almost instantly, So kind of you get more of a genuine picture of what you're actually laying down. Kind of like what you see is what you get, you know. Okay, now we're gonna switch to this. This is UV purple. Yeah. Again, all these worm dip colors will often say UV, and some of them are more UV reactive than others. You just have to kind of play with that and see what you think. And again, this color is like really light. I may actually be doing this kind of in the wrong order. It's kind of dawning on me now. That's probably what I'm doing. I should probably be laying down the darker purple first, then kind of working backwards. Gonna do that. The dark purple that I'm using is called lilac. I kind of almost really need an intermediate color purple, but I don't have one mixed up now. If I was to suggest one to y'all, probably like there's a color called pansy. That might be a good one, but don't have one mixed up right now, and this lilac's gonna be like really dark, pretty powerful purple color. So that's why I kind of backed up a little bit off the stamp there, and then what I'll do is use that dark dungeon, because the dark dungeon is it's weird. So it's both like it's kind of both a dark purple and a dark blue, so I can actually kind of blend it into that purple. And it should work pretty good. Alright, pull back and go back to this other one, the worm dip. Alright, now I'm gonna go back to, I don't remember which one I used for dark dungeon. Probably that one. I think that's safe. That one's pretty dark. And we're gonna hit dark dungeon around that very inside edge. And I'm gonna use one of my, I have these different Q-tips. I have some that are like regular, then I have some that are like pointy, if you can see that. So get a little bit better detail control with those. actually already used up 45 minutes. That's crazy. It's kind of just a different thing that I'm used to doing as far as what we're doing tonight. I'm used to trying to rush, not rush, but I guess I'm saying the opposite of that, to take my time and make sure I go over all my notes and everything. And tonight I kind of have this like laid back thing, like I got all the time in the world because I'm gonna get through it too fast if I go too fast. And then I'm like, oh, I've used up a lot of time. Okay, bear with me. I'm going to go wash these off and then we're gonna come back and work on the glue mask. Be right back. Okay, and I'm back. And as I said, I just wash them off with just warm water and soap. Um, when I removing it from a dye bed, I almost never use warm water. I use cold water. Um, cold makes dye not migrate. Heat makes dye migrate more. So a lot of times when you're washing off a dye bed, it's still got a lot of dye on it. If you blast it with hot water, you might cause that to like suddenly discolor what you're trying to save. Just sometimes cold water is better. In this case, you don't have as much to worry about. There's still a little bit of dye sitting on the surface, but there's not a lot. So, all right. So now we're gonna do the different things. I'm gonna do the tracer on this one, and I don't know what the squiggles or whatever on this one. Let's start with the squiggles. Again, kind of what we did before. Get your die, your disc centered. However you do that. If you got a jig, cool, even better. But I don't have one, so as I discussed earlier, I purchased one and it didn't quite work. I just kind of turned around and sold it off to someone else. Hopefully they're using it now. Alright, I'm gonna stop it from spinning now. Okay, and this is not like some mysterious special glue. It's just Elmer's white school glue, whatever, multi-purpose glue. It says extra strong formula on there. I don't even know if that's true anymore. This bottle has been refilled several times with like a big bottle of glue I got, and sometimes it's not even Elmer's. Like, hold on a second. Where's it at? It's back there. Let's see. Yeah, it's like Michael's store brand or something that I'm using now, but eh, just white basic glue is what we're using. All right. One more thing I need to grab. Forgive me. My paintbrushes. And I'm not going to use the brush end. I'm going to use the pointy end, the blunt end, whatever. I guess you could use there's a lot of variety of things you could use for this, but I like the paintbrush. It seems to be like just the right size that I'm looking for. Okay. There's a variety of ways that you can do this. What we're trying to do is just lay down glue over the whole thing. Not the whole disc, but the whole part that we just dyed. But you want to keep it thin. If it gets too thick, what's going to happen is after you make your design, you're trying to get it to dry, it's going to be so thick it'll just kind of run back together and cover up your design. It's kind of a trial by error thing. What I end up doing usually is just kind of laying it down like so. Said you do need like a good amount, but it's easy to get too much, so just kind of be careful. Okay. You can actually make it spin. A lot of times I just kind of do it by hand, just kind of, I mean, what I mean is you could use the motor, but I just kind of do this. And like I said, you do want it to be like a thin layer. And again, some of this is going to just stick to your finger, so yeah, that's part of it. I'm applying very, very gentle pressure. I'm hardly pushing down at all. It's just more kind of just floating on top. Some like kind of thin spots. I'm going to kind of do quick little touch-ups. It seems like that one kind of little area was kind of thin. Again, you don't want it too thick. Easy to get carried away, so kind of use your own judgment. Once you've done this a few times, you'll kind of see what I mean, because you'll probably have one that does blend together, and when it does, and sometimes it'll look like you still got your design on there, and you get it all dried out, and you go and you lay down your new color, and you wash it all off, and you just wash everything off, and you're like, where'd my design go? That's because you went too thick, and even though it looked like it dried and you got your design on there, you've still got a layer that kind of ran back together. That's so you're not contacting the disk. You'll see what I mean. Okay, now this is the easy part, right? All you're gonna do is get this thing moving, and basically I'm gonna take my brush, if you see it in the screen there, and just kind of move it up, straight up and down. And while it's spinning, it's gonna make those squiggles, right? I'm actually gonna slow it down a little bit because I don't want it moving too fast. I've got two speeds, like that's 33 RPM, and that's the 45 RPM. Okay, so I'm put it on the 33. And again, just once you start, just kind of keep it going. Eh, do I like it? I think so. Eh, that's it. That's all you do. It's really quite simple. Um, Now you're like, well, what do I do now? Now it's gotta dry, okay? I'm gonna use the dehydrator. I'm gonna go put this in the dehydrator. I'm not gonna start it right now because I'm gonna do the other one. Once I got them both in there, I'll go ahead and start it. It still takes a while for it to all dry out. I don't know that we'll finish this tonight. I've got some other old, these are like old dye beds that still have some Floetrol in them that could be used again. So they're just kind of sitting in there. Okay, this one will be a little bit different. Alright, this is how we do the tracers. This one's a little bit more intentional than that one. Okay, same thing. Let's get it centered up. Okay. With this one, what you're gonna do is just kind of pick a starting point and you're just gonna make lines. As I was saying before, like this one over here, this guy, I did like those lines are like squiggly. Can you see my finger there? Like did a little S kind of curve to it. You can also kind of do them at angles. You can do them straight, however you want to do this. I'm just going to pull straight ones here. And then just keep going. Try to get somewhat consistent with the spacing. Doesn't have to be perfect. And actually, a lot of times the little inconsistencies are what makes it cool. Like you can tell that it's, handmade, something that someone really took their time on. Wasn't created on a assembly line in Rancho Cucamonga. Just kidding. I love you, Innova. I think I got a stack of like 3 or 4 Sexton Firebirds. We could dye some of those up too if we wanted to. Can't do as much with them because they are, um, you know, they're that the color glow plastic, so they're already kind of a color. They're not so clear or white like these base glow are. But you can by all means still dye them. I remember one of the first times I ever played a doubles round at like a local league. This guy, I am predominantly forehand, That guy was not. He's predominantly backhand, and I threw a great drive on a good forehand line hole because there's a creek on the left. So if you kind of you're as it's fading, it's going away from the creek, right? And I told him, I was parked. I was like, hey, we got the birdie putt. Just throw something safe. He's like, no, I'm gonna run it too. So he throws his Sexton Firebird, but he puts a lot of anhyzer on it, throws it right into the creek, and he was he was sad about it for the rest of the round. I was like, you didn't have to throw that, man. Anyway, okay, this one is probably even easier than that one if you ask me, because this is really all you have to do, and then you just spin it, and then there's two different ways you can do this. I think I'll do this the other way because I did the other one. You can basically just put your brush down and hold it there, and just like that, and hold it, and it'll make the tracers as it pulls to the glue. Or you can just kind of slowly drag it, and you'll get like one continuous line, right? I'm gonna do that, and the reason I'm doing that is because I'm just wanting it to be a little different than the other one. And I actually started inside of that actual thing. There you go. In case you can't see what we created there, see the little tracers. I feel like the camera is just like blurring this for no good reason. It's very clear when I'm looking at it, but in the camera it's kind of blurry. Tell you what, let's try this. See if my if this one's clearer. There we go. That's what you end up with. And then again, you're going to let it dry, and while it's still got glue on it, you're going to put color on top of that, wash everything off, and then the glue will be masking the part that you just did, right? So you'll be left with the design there. Normally what I do with that design is I'll go over a couple different ways you can do it. You can go over it and make it I'm going to do this thing for like an hour, get that glue drying. Um, you could do what I did with this one, and basically what I did is I had that base kind of color, and you can see kind of in the background, in between the design, it's yellow, then to orange, then to red, or actually kind of just a deep orange. But when I did the second layer, I started with red, then it kind of faded to orange, but I didn't go all the way to yellow. So you've got that slightly darker. It's that same color tone, but it's a slightly darker color with the top. The other thing you can do is just go black over it. That works too. It still comes out cool, especially since these are glow discs, because that when it's glowing, that's the part that'll be masked is the black part. It won't glow. So you'll see the when you get it all charged up to glow, that's the part you'll see not glowing or whatever is the part that's the design. Okay, people, I wanted to do the other thing as well as far as like masking this and getting it ready. This guy right here. Um, but we're already at the hour. I think we'll just continue this like next week. We'll finish up all these dies, and I'll show you the masking part and finish those up as well. So let's plan on that. So to be continued on this live stream dying session, just to keep it from being ridiculously long, because I got those things going for at least an hour. I may even take longer than that to dry. Maybe, I don't know, but we'll see. We'll go through and continue this process on the next one. I didn't get any chats. Like I said, I kind of wish people would have jumped in and asked me some questions, but hey, that's all right. So until next time, maybe in a few weeks, I'll come back with an actual topic for discussion again. Till then, may your Heisers bring you hallelujahs. We'll see you on the next episode of Parable of the Disc. Thanks. God bless.